So Nathan, as a
Yeah.
CEO of a credit union that
Mhm.
has many employees, what is that like?
It's been an incredible experience. Drinking from the fire hose for sure. In terms of learning each and every day, it's something I talk to my team about a lot. Just learn something new every day, and that can't be more true for myself, right? In terms of what I've been able to see. I thought I had a good idea of what the credit union structure and financial services looked like before getting into the role of CEO. But then once you have kind of that viewpoint of it, and each of the channels of the credit union, different departments kind of coming together, and how it coincides with strategy and regulations, and then support mechanisms outside of the credit union, organizations outside the credit union. It's learned a lot, and so it's been exciting.
Learning a lot, doing
Yeah,
a lot,
that's right.
wearing one hat that is many hats, right?
That's right. Yep, sure is. Yeah, one day it might be the plumber hat. You got to put that plumber hat on, right? And the other day it's coaching. The other day it's looking at the strategy and development. So yeah, wearing a lot of different hats.
It's awesome. So
Yeah.
one of the biggest things that's starting to work with you that there's some major differences between a bank and a credit union, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have a very locally backed credit union that has been around for quite some time. So
Mm-hmm.
what is those differences? What does that even look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a lot of people, don't realize that, right? I'm walking into a bank or I'm walking into a credit union, right?
Yeah.
No, there's no difference to me, right? But there's fundamental differences that we see, and we try and help educate a lot in terms of
Yeah.
what is that difference. Not only that we try and provide at Minnequaw Works Credit Union, but as a credit union industry or movement as a whole. And really, the biggest piece of it is that ownership aspect, right? So every member of a credit union, that's one of the fundamental differences, right?
Right.
Customer versus a member. Those that walk in that create their account, they are share of ownership members, meaning that they have an equal ownership in the credit union. That gives them the opportunity to serve on board of directors. They can vote during annual meetings. And then that also allows us to return our earnings back to members in the form of what's called retained earnings. And that equity goes back into our membership in the form of higher dividends for savings accounts, CDs,
All
those
that
kinds of
stuff.
things,
Yeah.
and lower rates for loans and, low or minimal fees on any other type of account. So that's kind of one of those fundamental differences that we look at in terms of the credit union structure. And then that aligns to what we do each and every day, right?
Yeah.
So our decisions are backed by what we want to do to support our members.
Yeah.
In terms of saying, okay, either our current generation, the next generation, who are we going to bring into the credit union, and then the board of directors. They're all members that are part of the credit union. So being able to help ensure that we're keeping them happy as well, right? But they're a great aspect of it because they don't get any additional incentive to serving on the board of a credit union. A lot of times you see banks or Fortune 500 companies or
Sure.
whatever. You talk about stock options or getting paid huge huge payouts to the board of directors. Our board doesn't do that. Right? They volunteer their time, their energy to
They're an
support.
equal member.
They're an
Yeah.
equal member, all right, and so they're vested in something that's bigger than themselves, right? In terms of that cooperative spirit of a credit union, and then we take that to the next level, is what we're trying to do in terms of the local difference aspect at Minnequaw Works. In
Yeah.
terms of, okay, how do we vet those decisions in terms of saying, are we doing things local, or are we doing things that are right for not only our members but our community, and how are we helping Southern Colorado stand out in what we're doing? So that's been kind of a pretty cool backdrop that we've been
Yeah.
using for.
So as a CEO, you're making decisions for a whole lot of people and
Mm-hmm.
members and employees
Mm-hmm.
and all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So a lot has to go into probably a lot of the decisions you make or things that you bring to the board or the board brings to you or discussions that need to be happening to, make sure you're serving all the members correctly.
Correct.
And hopefully making them all happy, right?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, not going to make everybody happy.
You try,
right?
but
Yeah. Well, and kind of like was it like the Southwest Airlines theory, right?
Yeah.
There was a story back when, and it's changed now, I think, in terms of what their structure was. But there was a famous I think story where the Southwest Airlines CEO wrote a letter to a customer that had complained because she was concerned that they didn't have the ability to do first class seating or something like that. So
Yeah.
well, go to the other airlines because we're not going to have everything that you want. And we try and help make as many people as we can happy, right? We want to
Yeah.
make sure our existing members, for sure, we're helping to meet their goals and needs. Are we going to be right for everybody? Probably not, but are we going to be right for our community? Are we going to be right for those hardworking families that are supporting day in and day out? That's what we want to be able to help serve, right? Those members in Southern Colorado and in our community here. That's what we strive to support. So
Yeah, you got
hopefully we make them happy.
Yeah, you got your area, and you just got to do your best to support and make the best decisions you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, how long have you been in this role now?
It'll be going on 3 years.
3 years.
Yep.
So what's the background before stepping into that role kind of look like?
So I came up the operations side of the credit union. So I was started out as a branch manager when it came to the credit union side of things, so operating one branch. And then prior to Minnequaw Works Credit Union, I was at Aventa Credit Union, which has now since merged into Blue Credit Union. So if you're out there seeing Blue, that's kind of what they are now. But I was a branch manager there. Served in the branch manager role for a couple of years, and then moved into what was called a regional director role. So overseeing several different branch locations and kind of a multiple geographic area, and then worked up to an assistant vice president of operations, and then eventually vice president of operations. So overseeing branches, about 7 branches and a contact center, and a great team to be able to work with there. A lot of support that was given in terms of learning through failure, learning through opportunities, learning through growth, and one day got a call that said hey, would you be interested in interviewing for CEO, and one thing kind of led to another, and eventually wound up here in Minnequaw Works. So it was something that I didn't expect initially in terms of that time frame. My goal was always to try and become a CEO one day. But my thought was maybe 15, 20 years from now that opportunity would come up. And that call out of the blue in terms of support mechanism network, it was really cool to be able to see that. But coming into a team that made it easy too, right? So the team has been very welcoming in terms of the credit union, very supportive. We call ourselves credit union family that we work together, right? And so my executive team, our MSR line, our back office, everyone kind of comes in and works together. But they've really been a great support mechanism to me in terms of the different ideas that I had coming in. Right, I bring in a unique energy sometimes in terms of like, are you sure you're a CEO? What are you doing? So they've been very supportive from that side, and then also the board of directors has been very supportive also, which is one of the things I was probably most nervous about, kind of coming into a role. Right, you go from reporting to one person to now reporting to 9 people, right, in terms of the board. So how do you interact with that? And again, a different energy, something that they hadn't quite been used to before. In terms of the CEO that had been there before me, and so kind of getting that vested time with the board and kind of developing those relationships and that trust, right?
Trust in me. Let me kind of steer the ship.
So they've been on board since day one and been very supportive. So it's been cool.
So I mean, relatively quickly then you've went and moved up multiple job levels and into a CEO position. What advice would you have for somebody that's like in a company that's of a decent size that has kind of those different levels to be able to move up? Like if somebody's in a certain position, they're like, how do I get to that next one? I mean, obviously there's opportunity, there's hard work. Sometimes the chips just got to fall right, and but be ready for those opportunities. Like, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple of things that go into it. One of the things that, so I'm not going to be the smartest guy in the room all the time, right? So I know that for sure at the get-go. I have a lot of great team members that work around me that are much smarter than me in terms of what they're doing and what they're learning. But I learned from a young age, just like looking at my dad, my grandfather, my parents, in terms of that work ethic and working hard each and every day. The first battle is showing up, right? So show up to work. It's very rare that I ever call off, right? In terms of I try and not get sick, but I'm not calling
every
off.
Once in a while,
right? So show up to work, right? Get that, do that daily grind of what you need to be able to do. But through that, you start to, kind of develop, good work habits, right? That work ethic is important, but learning something new every day, having an open mind, taking on different challenges is important. And I think one of the biggest things that I was able to kind of see as a stepping stone to allow me to get to next levels and eventually to CEO was taking on not necessarily the easiest tasks, right? So
Yeah.
you want to find something that's broken and go out and try and fix it, or find a unique challenge or a unique problem, or if everybody's steering away from it, go in and jump in on that and
Yeah.
try and learn how to solve that problem. And the more that you can show that you're a problem solver, you're willing to jump into those harder situations, and you're doing it day in and day out. And also the other aspect too is don't ever ask someone to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. Right?
Absolutely.
So I call that like shoulder to shoulder leadership. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to jump in on the front line with the team, with the staff. Put on that plumber hat if I need to.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I'm not going to ask somebody to do something that I'm not willing to do myself.
Right.
And so through that, you kind of building those relationships and that trust, both with your peers, your team that you're working through, and then also upwards, right?
Yeah.
So I think people start to see that a little bit. They see what your character is, and if you're true to that, each and every day in what you do, once those opportunities come up, your name is going to be mentioned, or it's going to come to the table,
Yeah.
and you get those cheerleaders that are in the background for you that that you don't even know that opportunity might be there, and they think of your name.
Yeah.
And that was something that I was very fortunate for to be able to have that in terms of an
Yeah.
advocate, that said, "Hey, I know somebody that might be interested in this." And so I think it's that it's not always something that you're aiming for necessarily, but it's that daily work ethic, that daily
Yeah.
commitment, that character that you're building, and then again, being a problem solver. If you can start solving problems and taking on those challenges that nobody else wants to, those are a couple key areas that I'd say will help you get to that next level.
Sure.
And again, just kind of focusing in one day at a time.
Yep. Every day at a time, right? Like you said, the consistency and the people aren't going to want somebody that's a CEO that they can't count on to be there every day, right? If you're going to leading is showing up consistently all the time. Like
Correct.
even on the days that it's hard to.
Exactly. Yeah. And and things change too, especially when you're if you're in a position where you're going from like an hourly to a salary position, that whole mindset changes also, right? So I remember kind of those first steps where I took from going from an hourly to salary, like, well, the time clock doesn't matter anymore, right?
Yeah, right.
So then you kind of figure out the next piece of it in terms of saying, okay, that work-life balance, which is, I'm sure, what a lot of entrepreneurs would see, right? Because
Yeah,
the clock
absolutely.
never stops
Right.
for an entrepreneur, or small business owner, things like that. Same thing when you're in position in terms of either upper level management, an executive, C-team executive, whatever it might be. There's no such thing as clocking in and clocking out, right? So I call it like work-life harmony, right? So be able to integrate different things. We did a little staycation a couple weeks ago and went up to the mountains for a couple
Sure.
days, but I was still checking emails and staying on top of stuff,
Yeah.
making sure I'm connected and not completely disconnected to things
Right.
going on. So making sure that you have that mindset too.
What's your thoughts on that? Like when somebody's thinking about transitioning from an hourly to like a salary position and, the commitments that it takes to do that. Yeah, more money usually comes along with it, but a lot more commitment and those types of things come with it too, right?
Yeah. Well, and depending on the circumstance, it actually might be less money per hour, right? Once you step into those roles, especially when you're salary, right? And things like
Yeah.
overtime and all that, those don't really matter anymore. And so one of the first roles I had out of college, I was working with Target. It was called like an executive team leader of logistics. So I'd come in at 4:00 in the morning, work till 4 or 5 in the evening, and I learned pretty quickly that the more pay that you get in terms of salary doesn't necessarily mean that the more pay you get overall, right? Because you're putting in the more time,
Right.
more effort. But those also give you the opportunity to learn, right? So if you want to continue to be able to step up and you want to continue to get to those next levels or different promotions or more responsibility, whatever it is that you're seeking from a goal standpoint, that's one of those offsets, right? So
Yeah.
you know that you're going to take more time, more energy, more commitment, whatever that
Yeah.
might be, to be able to get to those next levels. So that's something that you want to be able to think about. And if your goal is to be able to say, hey, I want to be able to check in and check out at these times each day, then that's good to know too. And maybe it's not best for you to go into
Right.
those roles, right?
Those roles,
So
yeah.
kind of be able to think through, well, what's more important to me, right? Is it that work-life balance? Can I incorporate that? Does this make sense? And if you're not willing to make that commitment, then you're most likely going to have your team see that or others see that in terms of performance performance. So be able to say, where is that connection coming
Does
to
this
play?
make sense for me, right? Yeah, I think if you're doing that, you're constantly in a pay it forward. Like because you might have just gotten to the position, but you got to pay it forward if you want the next position. And if you want the next position, you're paying it forward for that position.
Yeah,
So you're just
exactly.
constantly like giving a little extra
Yep.
than you maybe should or could or the next person's willing to. So then you're constantly moving forward. If you think you're just going to do the minimum for that job, the next job's probably not going to be given.
Correct. Exactly.
Most likely.
Most likely, yeah. Most likely, yeah.
There's always the anomalies out
Yeah,
there, but
you never know. But that sounds like a pretty good theory that I'd buy into there. For
yeah,
sure.
no, it sounds like that's kind of what you've just always, done what you need to do plus a little more, right? Always.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and the other piece that comes with that too is like, so if you're if you're in a position even where you feel like there's not like an immediate growth opportunity or next role that's there immediately, you could always ask for other projects or things that you can help support on, right? To where you can develop maybe another skill set, or you can show your ability to multitask. Say, hey, look, I'm doing this job exceptionally well. Let me add on a couple of these other things too, and I can do both at the same time. Yeah. And so that it gives you the ability, one, to grow for yourself as a leader, or the task that you want to get better at, whatever it might be, and then getting to that next level. That you have that to fall back on as well. Say, hey, I was able to do these things, relate that, and say I can continue to do these and more moving forward.
More, yeah. Have you ever heard of the book Company of One?
I have not heard that one.
Okay, so it talks about somebody being like an entrepreneur within a business, and that's kind of like finding something else. Like there's the structure, and if you're willing to go outside the box and go like kind of build a business within the business type of thing, or find this new pillar or new opportunity, there could be gold there. Yeah. But you got to have that mindset to say like, got it, covering my job well, and now I want to go do this whole extra thing type of a deal, or really grow it, take it on like it's mine, even though I don't get paid like it's mine, or I don't own a percentage, but I'm going to act as like it's mine, and kind of grow it that way, because I think that's that entrepreneur mindset, and there's a lot of people out there that probably crush it at being entrepreneurs. They don't want to do the finances or deal with the high level stresses or worrying about everything in the business, but like they can go deep and hard and fast at like a certain, new thing that maybe they're excited about. Yeah. And that's what I want to build here is like, if you're super excited about live streaming, go deep dive into that. Making video, taking photos, go deep dive into that. Running ads, go deep dive into that. Like, and then who knows what else is on top of that, right? So like for you guys, you have how many employees now?
We're up to about 50 employees.
50. What's that like?
It's been exciting. So when I first came into the credit union a couple years ago, we were at 38 employees. Okay. And so we were at 38 employees, 3 branch locations, and now we're at 50 employees, 5 branch locations. So we've had the opportunity to grow a little bit over the last couple of years, which has been great to see. And we're trying to grow not just for the sake of growth to grow, but
just be bigger.
Value added growth. Are we making the right decisions in terms of what positions have we been adding into the credit union to add value back to the members and to the community? And I think we've done a pretty good job of kind of building out that structure. And working with a team of 50 or a team of 5 or 100, whatever type of team you're working with, I think it's important to be able to focus in on that development, that trust that you're building with the team. Sure. And I've got a great team that I get to work with each and every day. And one of the things that I've tried to learn more about, and I continue to learn in terms of from a leadership standpoint, is you can't do everything yourself, right? In terms of an organization, if you're a leader of one, right? If you're started off your small business, that's a little different story.
It's just you can deal with whatever.
But once you start developing that team and you have a team, they're there for a reason, and so it's important to be able to trust them, empower them, and so one of the biggest things that I've had to learn over the last several years, not even just in the CEO role, but prior to that, was you got to be able to let go of different things, right? Which can be really hard, right? Especially for someone that's might be controlling on different stuff, or have really high expectations, or you have that thought like it's going to just be easier if I go do this myself, which at the first part of it might be, but in the long term,
you can't scale that.
Yeah, exactly. You can't scale, right? So being able to trust and empower that team around you has been really important. And again, I work with a great team, all 50 individuals I get to work with each and every day, plus 9 board members, and then a couple associate directors, so interacting with 60 to 70 individuals on any given time with our organization, and that's even before you start talking about their families, right? And
Yeah.
their spouses, their kids, things like that, because that's the next piece of it that I think about, right? So it's
Yeah.
not just interacting with that employee, but it's interacting with them, their families, right? Is this a place at the dinner table that they're excited to talk about?
Right.
At the end of the day, are they excited when they're
Is it a
bringing
good
home?
day or a bad day?
Yeah, yeah. Or do they come? Are they coming home at night and they're saying, "Man, I can't believe what they're asking me to do here. Or I don't really want to go to work tomorrow." I don't want that to be the case. I want it to
Absolutely
be
not,
an exciting culture and that we're developing with the credit union, because that relates back to our member experience. That relates to our community
Absolutely.
experience.
Yeah.
So if you
What's
have,
the vibe like when you walk in, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so it's like, oh no, he's here again, or I'm going to go cower in the corner. Or oh yeah, there you go, he's going to give another high five. All right, yeah. Yeah, I had an employee the other morning. She asked me, she's like, "How do you have this much energy in the mornings?" I'm like, well, I don't really know, but I choose to have that attitude every day, right? I choose to have that positive energy and that connection. So hopefully it's not just annoying for the team. They're excited about it and they see it's pretty good.
Some it's probably
But,
a little much
yeah.
for, some it's
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
not quite
yeah,
enough for.
yeah,
and-
exactly.
But it's better than you being an Eeyore and
Mm-hmm.
walking through there and just every day is like, at least you're trying to bring energy and happiness to it, right? One
correct.
of our first interactions, we went by one of your branches and we're walking through there and every door saying good morning or hello to everybody, right? Type of a thing. Or it's not just walking through there, not interacting, and people being like, "What's wrong? Is there something going on?" Right?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
what's that mean to just say hello or good morning
Correct.
to your team members? And one or two is probably pretty easy. I mean, I can walk in the door here and say good morning and get a couple back, and it's good. But when you have 50 members to go say good morning to everybody is difficult, right? You don't even get to do that depending on what branch you're at.
Correct,
Different
correct.
things, but
Yeah.
you're trying to have your presence felt in a positive manner and bring maybe a little light to somebody's day that's not, maybe they're not feeling as good that day, or maybe it's not as good. So
Correct.
yeah, you got to take all that into consideration when you're in your day-to-day, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's important too, especially the more that you're able to connect with them, one-on-one, or at least help build rapport with with the team. You can also start to get a sense of, okay, are they having a bad day, right?
Yeah.
You can see that their energy is off or their attitude is off,
Yeah.
and say, okay, well, I know that wasn't the same as yesterday, so maybe we have a sidebar conversation. Say, hey, is everything okay? Anything I can help support on? And then that opens up to other things. Maybe there's a frustration at home or a concern, whatever might be happening, frustration at work. Need to dive into that and make sure everything's going okay. So those connections are important. For a few different reasons.
So what does your normal day look like? What would you say
Yeah, well,
on average
yeah,
your day looks
well,
like?
there's not really an average day, which is cool. And so that time connecting with the team is important. So also, within the credit union, it's not just a specific day, but
Yeah.
especially from the seat that I have now as a CEO. So my number one responsibility is the safety and soundness of the credit union, right? So whether that be with the team, whether that be the members, and managing risk, right? So when you manage any business or organization, there's risk involved.
Sure.
And when you're managing a credit union, there's next levels of risk, right? And different regulations that you have to follow and make sure that, NCUA is happy, make sure Department of Regulatory Agencies is happy, make sure everybody's happy when it comes to those types of things. So we manage different types of risk, right? So we look at interest rate risk, we look at operational risk, we look at reputation risk, we look at a full variation of risk, right? Credit risk, right? So we approve loans
That's
day
what
in
most
and day
people
out,
think of,
Yeah,
right?
credit
Like,
risk, yeah.
They're like, oh, you just want to make sure that you're not putting yourself at risk as a credit union, not all the other things that
Yeah.
you just mentioned before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a full range of risk that you
Yeah.
manage, and so that keys into what my days look like, right? So in terms of saying, okay, well, what am I keying in on? Am I keeping an eye on different analytics reports, making sure that we're safe and sound from an operational standpoint, those team connections, the credit and lending side of things. So kind of balancing each of those aspects there. But it's really kind of like, a three-legged stool, right? So
Yeah.
we have, our controls aspect, those things that you have to do day in, day out. We have a growth aspect of it that we need to be able to manage. So, what are we doing to help show that Minicore works difference for the community, to help get the next generation of members into the door and help ensure that we're able to be here for, the next 87 years,
Right.
90 years that we have as a credit union. And so those types of things. And then that service aspect, right? So, what are we doing in terms of those interactions, whether it's a new member that's coming in, an existing member that's been here with us, when they're walking into our doors, what are they experiencing? When they give us a call, what are they experiencing? When they go onto our website or they check us out on our awesome social media,
Yep.
whatever it's happening, what does that service experience look
Yeah.
like? So it's managing that three-legged stool. And so that controls piece, that risk piece, that's one of it, right? And then the service piece, and then the member growth aspect of it in terms of the credit union, those are each three areas of the credit union that get to manage on a daily basis. But I can't do that alone. So a lot of my time is also spent checking in with my next level executives, helping to ensure that they're supported, and helping to build that as well, right? They're diving into their specialties, they're making sure that they're doing what they need to do to get the job done day in and day out to meet those goals that we're setting as a credit union.
Sure.
And then that comes back full circle, right? So we'll go, once a year we have our strategic planning session that we go into, and we say, okay, well, what are some of the things that we've accomplished? What are those risks that are out there? What do we look at for the next 5-10 years? What do we need to accomplish now to help ensure that we're relevant in 5 to 10
Yeah.
years? And then that works its way back down to that daily basis, right? And again, the exciting thing is each day might be a little different, right?
Yeah.
Might have the opportunity to hang out doing an awesome podcast, right? Later might have great interactions with our members, experiencing with them, have some surveys in our lobby, and then team interactions, check-in meetings with the team. And then maybe field a couple calls from our board of directors, make sure we're keeping them
There's
happy.
any questions
Right,
or anything
exactly,
going
yeah.
on, right?
Yeah. What are you doing today? So
Well.
yeah, those are some different aspects, but it's again learn something every day,
Many layers.
and different layers that we experience.
I think as businesses grow, you think you're busy,
Mm-hmm.
or you've been, man, I'm slammed this month. And then 3 months from now, like 3 months ago, seems like that was a cakewalk. And then
Yeah.
the next year, you're like, I'm so much busier. You're still putting in your hours,
Yeah.
but then just the amount of things you're thinking about, or like that team you're working with to then handle to carrying out things. Like you just have more going on.
Correct.
Although you're not physically touching it, you're mentally, fractionally dealing with more, right?
Yeah.
Type of a thing, which is cool. I know what's so interesting, I think, with working with you guys, and it's fun and it's different because you have a lot of small businesses that they worry about the ROI on every dollar, right? And you guys are such a long-term brand play. You need engaged members. You want them to stay with you. You need more members to help grow.
Yep.
So you're constantly like making sure it's the best experience for your members, making it better or attractive for new members, and then also just being super relevant in the community.
Correct.
Something you do tomorrow might not have any correlation to new members, and then the next thing you do could be bring you a bunch, but you're just trying to kind of umbrella make the brand known in the community.
Yeah.
And they've been around forever,
Yeah.
but
Since
you have to
1937.
maintain that, right?
Correct.
There's so much work you're doing to maintain the brand and the reputation. That's how do you put a dollar value on that? It's almost impossible, but
Yeah, yeah, and it is, and there are certain things that are so hard to measure, right? In terms of what does that look like, and it might not be an immediate thing now, right? But how you build that momentum and that awareness piece of it. I think those multiple touch points and different things that you can do to help show, similar to what we were talking about earlier about your leadership, your character as an individual.
Yeah.
I think that same character develops as an organization, right? So where do people see you showing up at? What do they see you doing as an organization? And so we, the biggest focus that we've had the last couple of years is saying we need to be that local difference, right? Because we don't have the asset size of the Wells Fargos and the Chases and the multi-billion-dollar organizations. We're not that, and we're not trying to beat that. What we're trying to do is help to show that local aspect, right? How can we be that local difference to show up, support our community, support our members, and have that in our character and what we're doing day in and day out? Whether it be supporting, a youth baseball team, there's an upcoming River Fest that we're doing, having some fun stuff there, educational events, community events.
you have banners in restaurants,
Yeah,
supporting music stuff, and
exactly.
a bunch of things, right? Like how many? Okay, so we're halfway through the year ish. How many community events do you think you've been a part of? Whether your banner's there, you're physically there, like you've sponsored, like, and I know that's kind of maybe, I don't know, you kind of have a number or an
Yeah,
idea?
I was trying to average it out in terms of
Yeah,
like
per
direct,
per month.
direct versus indirect, kind of support on it. I'd say right now we're probably upwards about 30 or so supported in terms of 30 community events.
Being
30,
there physically on
yeah,
site, yeah.
yeah, and so about halfway through the year, halfway there.
And we talked a little bit about that because you always have members typically in the booth and stuff like that. You guys actually structure some hours into their I don't know if you'd say pay, but into their structure, right?
Yeah.
And then what's that look like? I think that's kind of cool, and that's something I wouldn't mind implementing here after we talked. It's kind of neat. So
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that I implemented as a change after coming on board as CEO was, so one was the amount of time that we were going out and volunteering in the community, the amount of different things that we were kind of focusing in on that. And what I started to hear was a lot of the teams saying, well, I wish I could get involved in more, but I don't have the time, or I don't think I can step away from the work that I'm doing here. So I was like, okay, well, we need to incorporate this as part of like our actual benefit structure in terms of giving the team members the opportunity to say, hey, I want to go out and support the community. How do I do that? And so the way that we went about doing that within the credit union was we call it impact time. And so some other organizations out there do something similar, right, in terms of like volunteer time or corporate social responsibility time, whatever their phrasing for it is. But ours is impact time because we want our team, we want our employees to go out and make an impact in the community.
Sure.
And so what that allows them to do is 12 hours a year. They can do impact time, which is paid time to get out of the branch, out of the credit union, and go make an impact in the community.
Love it.
And we try and help to schedule a lot of events that the team can definitely support on that. So we're doing, again, the Arkansas River Fest here coming up, or the Still City, the River Fest coming up. We're doing an event at the Public Mall in August with WIC. It's like World Breastfeeding Day, stuff like that. So if the team is excited about supporting and things like that, they can go and they can do that. Or if there's something else that they're passionate about, if they want to go and they want to, walk animals at the shelter, or they want to go read to kids in school, do a mentorship, they have the ability to do that because they can choose what they want to do with that 12 hours. Cool. And so, that's the expectation that they go out and they make that impact. And then that's another way to showcase, okay, other individuals most likely in the community, hopefully they'll see that too and say, hey, I saw that, Minicore Works team member, they were making an impact here, they were doing something positive. Maybe I'll, check them out if I need, a product or service that I'm thinking about for my financial goals. But if not, that's okay. We're still making an impact in our community and we're doing something good.
Yeah, and your employees getting paid to go do something that they're passionate about or love or want to do outside of the walls of the business, right? Type of thing, which is super cool. And when I learned about that, I thought that was pretty neat. I was like, that's a cool way. It's kind of like not vacation time, but vacation time. They get paid to go do something they might not normally do.
Correct. Exactly.
Want to do. So, or be passionate about or find the time for. So I was like, wow, that's an interesting implementation of something. And when you think about it, 12 hours per employee, that's nothing. Well, at 50 employees, that's a fairly decent commitment by the company to then pay out for all those hours throughout the year, right? But you're also, like you said, reaching past the person, their family. Now you're reaching that person and maybe the hobby or the things they love doing or the people that they like being around outside of family, which is super interesting, right?
Correct.
And how do you put a thing on that? You don't. You're like, I think it's really good for us to be out there more. Yeah. And I think it'd be good for us to support the community more because that's making that local difference. So here we are. This is what we're going to do. Yeah. Whether it brings us one new member or not, I think it will be good for us as a company to do these things.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like the retention piece, right? So if it helps to add to the benefit, why should an employee stay with us and things like that helps to give them additional incentive to say, hey, that's a pretty cool thing that we're doing in terms of our culture as a credit union. This is a team I want to be a part of for longer. Then that helps us a lot.
And one of the coolest things you guys have some employees that have been around a long time, really long-term employees. And I think as a company that's young, it's like, how do we end up having somebody that's been here for 20 years or 30 years or whatever? You've had a couple employees like...
Yeah, we've got a couple employees that are right around that 40-year mark, which is incredible.
That's
amazing. To be able to see.
Sure.
So our average right now, so again, we have 50 employees. Our average tenure per employee right now is a little over 14 years. that we have for employee, which is really awesome to be able
And
to
when you're
see.
growing, you're bringing somebody in brand new. It
Yeah.
offsets that
Yeah.
number, right?
Correct. Yeah. And so, and that's also a testament to the culture of the credit union. Even so, I've been here for 3 years,
Yeah.
right? We're going on 3 years now. So, I definitely wasn't here 40 years ago, right? And so, being able to see, okay, well, what does that history of the credit union look
Yeah.
like? And that focus on the members has always been there. And to be able to see that continue to carry forward for the next generations of employees and things like that. And how are we doing that now? And sharing our story more now. I think we're doing a little bit better job of that now in terms of, what does that Minnequaw Works story look like? What is that impact that we're doing in the community? I think we're doing a better job sharing the story, but you can see that in the culture of the employees that have been here, 40 years, 30 years, 25 years, whatever it might be. They've made that decision, because of the work that they're doing each day. They see that positivity, that life-changing decision that you're helping to support a member with, when it comes to approving from a loan, their first savings account, whatever it might be, and the best days, and also walking members through some of the worst days of their lives. Those interactions, being able to say, hey, this is a difference I want to be able to make.
How do we
and come back to work each and every day. So I think that we're seeing that now, sharing the story more, but but it's been here long before me. So it's
Sharing the story looked a lot different 40 years ago, right?
Correct,
Like it might have been you guys did something amazing, and then the newspaper wrote an article, and then it went out on the Sunday newspaper, whatever, right?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That was the thing. Not that some of that still doesn't happen, but it just looks and feels a lot different today.
Correct.
Like blogs on your website, or social media posts, or email threads that congratulations to so and so for this thing that happened, or whatever, right? So it's so fractionally different now, but it's that consistent focus on it, right? That you,
Correct.
Yeah, and I think that's says a lot if a company's holding people for 40 years. And I mean, I think you even kind of like, it's not all about pay, right? Like if somebody's just chasing money, like you try to be as competitive as you can in pay compared to similar positions, but then also you got to have a good work environment for these people to want to stay. And maybe if you're not the most competitive, but they really like the impact time, or it's close enough to that other position that they're like, nah, but I like my family here. I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
And then they are the family. Like, geez, 40 years. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then if they decide to go somewhere else, hopefully they're saying great things about the experience that they've had here, and they'll continue to rock it elsewhere.
Yeah, people change, like, right, like, or they want to try something different or whatever, or you get people that just love what they do and they're good at what they do and do what you do, because we need people that are really good and do what you do, right?
Correct,
Which is awesome. So no, I think that's super cool that like the average of 14 years is I don't know what an average for a business is, but I assume you guys are on the higher side of some of that. So
yeah, I think for the amount of employees that we have, and like I said, the new employees, I think we only have that tenure, that average there is pretty great to see.
Yeah. So what about the growth side of things? Like you've added Pueblo West, and then you're redoing one of the locations. So like, what's that kind of foot on the gas, constant growth, but without losing a lot, right? With the keeping quality and everything else the same. What's that look like what's on your mind within growth, I guess?
Yeah. Well, the good news about kind of where we're at with our growth aspect is it's not just me behind it, right?
Yeah.
So it starts with our strategic planning process. And so the first strategic planning that I came into at the credit union was in the late part of 2022, about 3 weeks after I came into the credit union. So the board had me up to support a strategic planning session. And so ever since then, we've had the opportunity to kind of dive in and say, okay, well, what's our most important goal? What's going to be the biggest things that's going to drive us moving forward? And initially, it wasn't just about the growth aspect of it. It was creating a strong foundation, right? Just when you're building a house, right? You need or building, whatever it might be, you need to have a strong foundation first, to where then you can grow up from there.
Yeah.
And so refocusing in on the structure, the org chart pieces, different critical aspects that we needed to look at internally, so that way the growth would be possible. Looking
So it wasn't just stepping in and turning the knob up.
Correct.
Like it's like, no, we gotta be real good, and then we'll go.
Yeah. So I think having that fundamental piece there, that was one of the biggest pieces, looking at strategic planning, saying, okay, yeah, we know that we need to grow. As a credit union or as a financial institution, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? Because eventually you're gonna age out membership, right, in terms of those aspects of it. If you're not replacing that next generation, and you're saying, okay, how am I being relevant in the new technology age that we have, whatever it might be? Do we have an app that is up to par with those different things that you see,
Yeah.
whether it be Apple or Chime or even Starbucks, right? In terms
Yeah.
of a financial aspect, making payments with. A lot of people don't think about those aspects when it comes to strategy. So how do we look at developing those pieces there, that structure piece, and then so saying, okay, well, what does our brand look like in the community? And a lot of the questions that we were asking and we heard in terms of the community was, oh yeah, Minicore Works Credit Union, that that was my grandparents' credit union, or that was my parents' credit union. I've heard about you, but what are you doing now? And so being able to refresh that brand, right?
Yeah.
And you see a lot of different name changes of history for other institutions, not only in our community but across the nation. And one of the cool things about Minicore Works is since 1937, it's had that same name.
Yeah,
That
it's
same
never
kind of
rolled
that
up
brand,
into
right?
a different one or whatever, right? Yeah.
So that's more of a brand refresh and say, well, how do we grow now? And pieces of that, Pueblo West community. We opened up a branch location in the fall over in Regency in the south side. So now 5 branch locations. We're getting ready to do a full scale remodel, rebuild for our Belmont location. So consistent brand experience that we're looking at now in terms of what are our members experiencing, what is our community experiencing. When they think of Minicore Works, are they going to think of, oh, that was an old credit union
That
back
same
when?
old building
Or is
that
that,
only
exactly.
people went to that one place, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the new location in Pueblo West is in one of the newest buildings in Pueblo West, right? And
Correct.
like around some of the newest other businesses in Pueblo West. So when people are going there, they can see your logo, they can see that you're relevant, and people are going in and out, and they're like, oh. And you guys threw a pretty decent little party to kick it off, and everything. Had a ton of people show up.
Yeah, the community showed up big time for us.
If you want people to show up, give away some free ice cream, right?
Yeah, free ice cream was huge. Yeah, yeah. If you ever want a ton of people to show up, just bring Shiver Shake in there. Shiver and Shake, they got some great ice cream. But no, it's been fun. It's fun to be able to see that and that impact in the community and that growth piece, and different people mentioning it in terms of starting to hear a little bit more now. Say, oh, Minicore Works. I see you here. I see you there. And that's really kind of that day in and day out structure of it,
Just
right?
the
So
grind,
kind of building that up. So it's been great to see.
Yeah. How do you feel where you're at on that journey? Has it made quite a bit of progress? Is that kind of your vision or the board's vision for the next few years, is just to consistently try to revamp the brand and just make it a newer, more energy behind it, I guess? Like, kind of what's the...
Yeah. Well, consistency is huge, right? So that's definitely a piece of it. There, we haven't really dove into this year's strategic planning session. That'll be coming up in a couple months. So I'm excited to see kind of how that one pans out. But in the world of financial services that we're seeing now, there's so many different elements that we're seeing, whether it be AI, artificial intelligence that's building up, and there's some really good uses for it that we've started incorporating. But there's also risk there, right, in terms of the amount of fraud that you see and those risks from that standpoint.
Yeah.
So how again do you continue to safeguard the credit union? How do you create personalized experiences for your members, connecting with each one individually? So I think those are going to be some different aspects that we look at, as well as saying, okay, well, what does the the path for Minicore Works look like? So what do we see ourselves being at our 100-year anniversary, which will be 2037, which is just around the corner. It'll be here before we know it, which is crazy. And I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, well, I've got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old right now. So where are they going to be at in school? It's kind of scary to think about. Don't want to think about it too much. But saying, okay, so in at our 100-year mark, what does the credit union look like, and what does that experience look like for the members, and continue to shape that, and again, rewind that back to now and say, okay, well, what do we need to do now to help drive that? And big pieces of consistency. What does branch experience look like? What does that look like now? How do we continue to modernize it? And so those will be each part of our conversations that I'm sure we'll continue to have, whether that be now or 5 years from now, and continue to develop that into the future. So that'll be our piece.
With the board members, what's that like interacting with them and trying to keep them all happy? I mean, that's kind of who you have to report to, right? And type of stuff like that. So I think a lot of people as business owners are maybe, or they're running a business, but then they may step into a CEO type role or whatever. Like, but that's a whole different ecosystem. You go from just kind of running it all to like running it, but with the direction of the board and having to make maybe decisions you love or don't love, but the board says, yeah, that's what we're going to do. And you're saying, all right, then I'll go carry it out type of thing. Or I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's different.
Yeah, and so as a board of directors for a credit union, they're the governance of the credit union, right? So they're kind of like that check and balance. They help ensure that I'm doing my job, day in, day out, make sure I'm doing what we're supposed to do to have that safety and soundness and the positivity for the credit union moving forward. But they also help to set the tone in terms of what do they want to see from a strategic plan. That's kind of where that process comes in terms of the board feedback on that, in terms of saying, yeah, we either like this direction or we don't like this direction. And again, kind of coming into the credit union, I've been very appreciative and very supported. I've been very much supported by the board of directors, which has been great to see. That was, again, one of the things I was most nervous about, kind of stepping into the role of CEO, because Jim Barber had been in the role for many years before. He is an amazing CEO in terms of the consistency, the health that he brought to the credit union. Also worked behind Kim Giordano. He had helped to kind of have a segue role as a CEO there when Jim Barber was no longer able to fill the role. And so that history that they had there with them and that trust that was developed with those amazing leaders in terms of the credit union industry, it was hard to be able to kind of have that mindset and say, okay, well, I'm stepping into this role. I'm a 30-something-year-old guy, coming in, different energy, different skill set, different leadership. So I was most nervous saying, well, is the board going to be accepting of this? Are they going to look at this as something that they're bought into? And I've been very appreciative of the fact that they have. Cool. They're each step of the way I've had really good feedback. I've had a learning experience in terms of how is it best to communicate with the board. What type of data do they want to be able to see? What's important to help share with them? When is it important to share? And so being able to learn that aspect of it has been really good. And then hopefully, again, continue to earn their trust in terms of from a leadership standpoint. That's a big goal that I want to be able to have in terms of earn that trust, earn that leadership every day. I'm really excited when my door code works every morning, right, coming into the branch. So being able to have that relationship and that positive communication, line with them, right? So one-on-one, I have a check-in often with my chairman of the board, just to help get any feedback. Are there different things that, that he's really liking right now, or things that he'd like to see changed, to see things focused in on.
Sure.
Just as I have check-ins with my team, I do the same thing with the board, and helping ensure that, keeping things in mind. Am I learning the right things? Am I incorporating the right things along that strategic planning process in terms of learning from that aspect?
It's definitely a pretty interesting check and balance, right? Like you're making decisions, but kind of based on what they want, and then you're just hoping that you follow it out right. And board members though change, right, and stuff like that too. So the board probably goes through variations of decisions or energy or how much they want to push or how much risk they want to have or not want to have for the credit union, right? Versus the growth. So you're constantly getting to balance out. Which 3 years in, has there been multiple different board members? Has it been about the same board? Or
so since I came in, we've added 2 new board members. So 2 new board members have joined, as well as 2 associate directors. So we have like our voting board members, and then we have associate directors, which kind of another way of saying is like almost like a director in training, to where they can learn about the governance of the credit union. They can learn about the ins and outs of the board structure. So that way, when a position does come up on the board, then we'll have that ability to have them step in a little bit more seamlessly.
They're not just kicking in the door and like, I'm here to change stuff.
Exactly.
I'm like, no, there's a way we do this type of a thing.
No, that's been pretty cool to see. And but no, just similar as we have a strong tenure from our team. We have a great tenure with our board of directors. Cool. So we have Marilyn Rhodes. She was actually the CEO of NEPCO Credit Union, which is Northeast Public County Credit Union. It merged into Minnequa Works Credit Union. And so in the credit union industry plus board, she's going on, she's over 40 years of experience in terms of the structure there. our board chairman, he's been on the roll, let's see here, I think going on 30 years with the board experience. And we get that across the board for several that have been ingrained in financial services and the credit union movement from different ways, different aspects. And then we also have our newer side of things. So those that are coming in now as our new board members or associate directors, be able to get that experience and kind of the diversified experience that comes into the board that will then translate into our experience that we have as a credit union in terms of saying, how are we staying relevant to our next generations and the financial landscape that's out there. I think being able to have that diversification in a board of directors, just as with a team, is incredibly important.
Sure.
And so we're seeing that now too, in terms of those aspects there and those next steps. I'm excited about to see what the journey ahead will look like.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. Besides all the work that you're always doing and everything outside of work, who are you? What do you do? What's the family look like? You know what I mean? Like, what are you into? What do you enjoy? Why do you work so hard to go enjoy or do what?
I'm dad.
Your dad.
Dad outside of work. That's the top priority. And it definitely was a game changer, right? So before we had kids and all that fun stuff, I did an Ironman triathlon. I was an Ironman. I was kind of joking around. I went from Ironman to dad bod, right? In terms of those pieces there. But no, I'm a dad. I got a 7-year-old daughter, a 4-year-old son. My wife and I were high school sweethearts, and we're going on 14 years married now this year. And so the family time is important, right? So we talked a little bit about before that I refer to it as a work-life harmony. So I'm never completely unplugged away from work. So looking at ways to help positively incorporate that with the kids, right? So if we're out at a community event, we've done a lot of things with the library district here in town. So that's been great to be able to bring them to those types of events and let them see a little bit about what we do. I'm sure if I ask them in terms of, well, what does Daddy do in the credit union? They're like, I don't know. And he goes to the office, and then he goes to some cool festival stuff and community events and stuff. So, but being able to incorporate those pieces there. So we like to go swim. Right, summer right now, so go swim with the kids. Or we have kids in like different camps and activities. So dance and soccer and. Getting our daughter into golf right now,
That's
so
cool.
Hopefully gives me a better excuse to get out of
Go
the house
play
on the
more.
weekend. Sorry, honey, I gotta
She
go play
really
golf.
wants to go play,
yeah, I gotta make sure we're working on her drive and her putting.
We're putting
skills.
today. Yeah, we're working on that short game.
Yeah. So I'm dad. I'm dad outside of work. So trying to spend as much time as I can with them and enjoy those moments now because I know it's going to go by incredibly fast. It already has gone by fast in terms of the last 7 years as being a dad. So those pieces there, and that funnels back to the why, right? So why day in day out in terms of the work that I do, the energy that I put into work. It's for them, right? In terms of looking and saying, okay, what's that next generation going to look like in our family, and help to support them on their goals and continue to kind of get to that next level. So my parents did that for me, right? They worked hard, day in and day out because they always said that, I was actually one of the things that they would always say was I'm their retirement fund. They'd say, I asked, I remember a couple times when I was younger, asking my parents about retirement planning and stuff like that. They're like, yeah, you're our retirement plan. I'm like, okay, all right, way to go.
I don't know what that means, but
So I figured it out. But no, in terms of that aspect, they're looking at it full circle, right? In terms of saying, okay, I saw the work, the energy that my parents put in to help support me. I want to do that for them. Right?
Yeah, that's cool.
I want to be able to help give them those opportunities to learn and take chances and take some risks in terms of what they want to be able to do. Say yes. And so those are those different things I think about, right? So I think of small business owners and entrepreneurs and the work that you guys are doing, and that's risk, right? So going out and starting a small business, being a small business owner, that's risky. Taking the guts to do that, and I've always admired that, right? To be able to say, I wish I had the guts to go out and do something like that, because the career path that I did was based off of that hard work ethic, right? So show up day in, day out, go in and learn that job and kind of show the best that I could do. And that's gotten me to a pretty cool place.
Yeah.
But I always envy and look at, small business owners and entrepreneurs for the work that you do and say, hey, that takes guts to go out and do that and say, hey, I want to, have this idea. I have something that I can go out and solve and do it for the community and go out and do it. That's incredible. So testament to you and all small business owners, entrepreneurs that go out and do that day in and day out. And I want my kids to be able to have that opportunity to where if they want to go and take that risk, they want to go and solve a problem in the community or whatever they want to do, I want to help give them kind of that foundation to go out and do it.
Yeah.
Right? Hopefully show them some things along the way that help to support them. But at the end of the day, hopefully I'm sitting back and taking notes and learning from them and say, all right, hey, that was pretty cool. How did you do that?
Yeah.
So, that only the future will tell. But
yeah, the evolution is interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like in people, in technology, and just everything. It's same, but definitely different. And we live in a different world than our parents lived in, and their parents, and it's super fun. But yeah, like building the business and all that. It's just it's cool. It's fun. It's challenging. It's scary. I don't know. It's a lot of things. But and then, I mean, something that's really cool that I love to do is just the amount of people we meet. Met you. If we weren't working, didn't know, like we might not know each other, right? And same, like you get to meet so many people, then you get to meet a ton of people with what you're doing, like because you're so community facing and internally facing, but you meet a lot of people too within employees that are friends and employees that are family and friends and just all that. So it's such an interesting way that relationships really are extremely key, whether it's your close family or not your close family. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's been huge to be able to see in the community, right? So I remember when I first stepped into the role of CEO here at Minnesota Works Credit Union, I went to like a different community event. I think it was a fundraising night or something, and I was just trying to meet a few different people, and there was a state senator there and stuff like that, and very first introduction, I'm all nervous and stuff like that. Say, hey, I'm Nate. I'm gonna be the new CEO over here at Minnesota Works Credit Union. Love to spend a couple minutes of your time and things like that. And so from those first interactions there of not being able to kind of be ingrained in anything to now be able to say, hey, we've been able to build a pretty strong network of individuals, other leaders in the community, business owners, local legislators, whatever it might be, and say, okay, if I have a question or if there's something that I want to help advocate for when it comes to the credit union side of things, I know a little bit more that I can go to when those aspects happen.
For instance, or for example, right? I have this data in my pocket that I can leverage or utilize for helping get a point across. Like, what do you think you see from small businesses that you guys work with, or just that you've worked with, or that like what's some key things that they're doing, or some good things, some not so good things? Like what's that ecosystem look like from your standpoint?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest things is making business easier, right? So I think that's a challenge that a lot of businesses or business owners might face is what's going to make the job easier for them, like to be able to get things out of sight, out of mind, cut the red tape. Let's just make it easier, make it honest. I see some really good things that are happening in the community in terms of Southern Colorado. I think we're seeing a lot of growth. We're seeing more gas stations than I know what to do with. You see those popping up all over the place. But I truly see other growth, right? In terms of, and then initiatives to be able to learn and say, okay, well, what can I do to solve a problem? Or, be able to say, okay, we have these, unique opportunities in our Southern Colorado community. We've seen so much growth in Northern Colorado, whether it be Denver or Fort Collins or Colorado Springs. And I think for a long time it had always been, okay, well, Pueblo and Southern Colorado was kind of like that second thought or different things that we're doing. And I think by, those that are like us, others in the community that continue to share our story, the things that we're doing in the community, I think it's just going to continue to make a more positive impact with others. And it'll let others see, hey, they're doing some really cool things in Southern Colorado. I want to be a part of that, or I think that's a great community to be vested in and communities to be able to help continue to grow and prosper. So I think the more that we're able to put that energy in, the better that we can do. In addition to having the hat of CEO at Minicore Works, I serve on the board of directors for the United Way here in
Okay.
Pueblo County, and so a lot of the things that we talk about is it refers to ALICE, so it's Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed, and I think it's about 47% of the population in Pueblo County falls under what's called ALICE, and so that's a
Interesting.
huge opportunity for business owners, for nonprofits, for organizations in the community to look at and say, hey, how are we making an impact in the community? How do we help continue to lift up our neighbors and give them more opportunities, whether it be higher income jobs that are coming in, better infrastructure, those things into the Southern Colorado community that helps to get us on track to support those next generations.
Yeah.
And so I think that's looking from a business ownership standpoint and solving community opportunities, saying how do you continue to look back and say, okay, well, how am I helping our neighbors? What am I doing to help make our community a little bit more vibrant or better for the next person? And I think we're starting to see that in different ways, but there's more opportunity as we're moving forward. At Minicore Works, that's some of the different things that we've been focusing in on over
Sure.
the last couple of years. We have a bank on approved overtime checking account, doesn't have any fees, earned interest. We have some different lending opportunities to help individuals out. We have a Y-Save program to help youth start building their savings plan. And one of the fundamental pieces that goes back into that is saying, how do we help those hardworking families, those ones that are maybe living paycheck to paycheck or paycheck to half a paycheck, depending on when
Yeah.
that bill cycle comes in. How do we make it easier for them? Same thing with business owners. You asked, those business challenges.
Yeah.
Business owners, have to manage a budget, right? How do I manage a budget? How do I make that decision to bring on a new employee or keep that employee here through harder economic times, whatever it might be? And so if we can help make it easier for them, whether from our side directly as a credit union or regulations or governance, whatever it might be, to help make it easier, I think that's going to be one of those biggest pieces that helps to get our community to that next level, right?
Yeah.
Southern Colorado, and then that broadens out to Colorado, whatever it might be. How do we make it easier? So
Yeah, I think that's kind of the undiscovered gold, right? Like if you go where all the money's at, then that's a bunch of people are there figuring it out, right? But then if you can build something outside of that, where it's maybe not as easy or not as black and white, you might say, then there might be some gold there that you're like, oh wow, this worked way better there. Where we're at, it's lower cost. Like this office space would be more if we were north
Correct.
by 45 minutes
Correct.
or 2 hours. If Denver is insane, that like their minimum wage is 18 whatever an hour, like like their whatever county that is, or Denver County or whatever. So like that's more like how hard it would be to go start a business up there compared to starting a business here if you're trying to bootstrap it. But there's so many crazy things that like some people are like, yep, give me that $200,000 loan, I'm gonna go rent this building, hire these people, buy this equipment, kick this thing off. Or you have the other people, like kind of like what we've done, it's literally just me, and when it's too busy for me, it'll be one more, and when it's too busy for two, it's one more. There's no debt really crazy involved, but then there's moments where like I'm starting to look at as a business owner that if you want to play the tax game, you have to carry some sort of debt, which is really a pain in the butt, but like it's just what it is. Like if you want the tax deduction now, you got to finance something for the next 5 years or take a loan for the next 5 years. So then you start looking at like, what's my best bang for the buck as far as what type of debt can I take on that allows me to do the most, but not harm the business, but also give me the best deduction. So it's like, I don't know, it's such a weird thing, right? And I'm like, I'm so against it, but then I'm like, man, we're going to have to. Like, as much as we try not to, you just have to. So I think, having a relationship with your credit union or whoever, your financial institution, just knowing options. And then obviously from your guys' standpoint is letting the options be better known, right? Like in micro ways or in many ways, how can we help these things? Or when there's opportunity, which that's an interesting thing, which you guys probably don't do as much, but like grants and different like funding that comes down from the state or, the federal government that should flow into small businesses for somebody to say like, hey, there's an opportunity over here. You need to take advantage of this type of a thing. So, what you guys are doing, some grants and some stuff like that to help support the local economy and the businesses and stuff like that too, right? So, it's such an interesting thing where you just try to hit it from so many aspects.
Yeah, this is our second year where we've done the Fueling Futures grant program, to where it actually started with food entrepreneurs. We partnered with Fuel Kitchens last year. We
Yeah.
partnered with food entrepreneurs to do that. And this year we expanded it to all types of small business owners, organizations in the community. So we're giving out $30,000 worth of grants this year,
That's pretty crazy.
which has been pretty exciting to see. And it's all about that fueling future aspect, right? So making it a
Right.
little bit easier for a small business owner or organization to maybe get to that next level and that next step to kind of help, fuel their future of an organization. And then on the flip side, as a credit union, we are not for profit, and so we can reach out to different organizations. There's one that's called the Go West Foundation that we worked with, and they gave us a grant for our Bite of Reality program that we're doing. And we had the opportunity. You guys helped to
Yeah,
join
that
us
was super
on an
fun.
event there. We did Bite of Reality this last year with it was fifth grade over at Corwin, and so giving them the experience to kind of go through a budget simulation and a scenario, and kind of give them that hands-on experience of what is it going to be like to be an adult, and the decisions that you're going to have
Yeah.
to make to manage your budget and financial wellness aspect. So that's been kind of the next piece that we're looking at as a credit union in terms of making education a piece of it, whether it be for fifth graders, middle schoolers, high schoolers, parents, teachers, organizations. Everybody has the opportunity to learn something, right?
Absolutely.
And so that Bite of Reality program has been pretty exciting that we've been able to do. And then, so we're going to start seeing that a little bit more this next year, more schools that are starting to sign up for that program that we're going to be able to help give that value to. And then we're also looking at our online aspect, our financial wellness center, and giving someone 24/7 access to those financial tools and capabilities.
Yeah.
But that all started from a grant process, right? In terms of saying, hey, how do you help support that next idea, the next process that we can incorporate in the community for making it better for our members and others, just as you guys are doing, day
Yeah.
in, day out. How can I help make this better for my clients, for our community, and help to share that positive image that we have. So it's
Yeah.
been pretty cool.
So is some of that backed by like a grant that you're able to get as a nonprofit to then share, or you guys build that like fund internally, or both, or
Yeah, so and I guess like a key differentiator. So we're not like a 501c3 in terms of the credit union.
Yeah.
So we do have a 501c3 foundation that we have. It's the Helping Hands Foundation that we've now formed that's outside of the credit union.
Okay.
That helps support different initiatives in the community, and it aligns closely to the credit union. But as a not-for-profit credit union, we have the ability to go out with like a credit union association or NCOA, and we can apply for different grants for the year. And then the first grant that we received was specifically with the Go West Foundation for Bite of
Got it,
Reality.
okay.
And then our funding that we do for our Fueling Futures program is directly incorporated from our internal structure. So those are funds that we budget out with our board of directors that have approved it and say, hey, we're going to give out this grant based off of this criteria that we've internally done.
Very cool.
So a couple different ways that we continue to look at it, and I think that'll continue to grow as we look into the future. And so right now, just kind of starting that out. This is our second year of doing it. We've had some really good feedback, and it's been neat to see that positive impact already for some of our small business owners, and seeing that hopefully continue to grow as we look forward.
When you see it all the way down, right? Like, why is Amazon doing grants? Why is FedEx doing grants? Why are all these big companies doing grants? And obviously, there's tax reasons or internal reasons or like just reasons within business that you need to do those things or don't, but like there's benefits to doing that, which helps you and helps others. So why not do that? Which is pretty cool. Like just because you have a business that has some profits in the end of the year doesn't mean you have to go give a $20,000 grant, but you do a $500 grant, have people apply, do what, you know what I mean? So that's pretty cool. Like, I think those are the things that, and what are you passionate about, or what is that company passionate about, and do the ideals align? We went through like a business entrepreneur course thing and pretty much said like do some sort of give back, right? Like, X% of this, or find some sort of thing that you want to donate to each year and do that, and then let it be known that you're supporting something or becoming a partner of that to help support those things. So and everybody has those passions, and then I guess as like the credit union, you got to kind of find a generalized passion, right? And then what you guys want to go support, but you're kind of making your own.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So kind of just the ecosystem's interesting. You go one way for long enough, and then it almost backfeeds itself to feeding others. So which is really interesting. And I think that's what, were those things happening when it was 10 or 20? Or is this all new, like 10 or 20 employees? Is it just now that maybe it's at scale enough that it makes sense at where you guys are at? Or
there were pieces there that the credit union had formed. So the Helping Hands Foundation stemmed from a Helping Hands committee that was formed probably about 20 years ago, I believe, in the credit union, to where it started out as an idea in terms of saying, how can we give a helping hand to our members when maybe they're struggling at a certain time of the year, when it would be the holidays, or again, living paycheck to paycheck, or paycheck to half a paycheck, right? So are there different things that we can do to help give that helping hand to our members, to our community? And it started with that idea, right? So the team would do different fundraisers in the lobbies in terms of maybe sell cookies or dress down and stuff like that for $1, whatever it might be, to
things that members wanted to do that as a company couldn't quite be done, right? Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Cool.
So that idea there spurred into our Helping Hands Foundation, which we formed this last year as an official 501c3.
Okay.
And so now we're able to apply for different grant funds in the future and do different things from that aspect, but then also give donations and support the community in different ways. And so so far this year we're teaming up with the Pueblo Cooperative Care Center. They're really low on men's clothing, and so they need a lot of men's clothing donations, stuff like that. So if you have any extra clothes that are hanging out in your closet, go and donate some, because they're hurting for that right now. So we're doing a donation to them, and we're helping to raise awareness on that in our lobbies and gain donations. So that's one of our first initiatives we're doing this year. We've supported our NeighborWorks food pantry that's happening over by our Bessemer branch location. We've done that the last year and a half or so, helping to hand out food with them, both from a volunteer aspect. We also saw when we were donating our time that there were a lot of families coming through that had four-legged kiddos. They had their pets in the car and stuff like that. And so we went out and we got a bunch of pet food, and we were able to help get that as a donation to those families that were needing some of that support too. So giving a helping hand in the community, it might not be the biggest game changer that you see, but if it's one small change that you can do, right, be able to share that. Jim Barber, the former CEO of Minicore Works Credit Union, he had used the starfish as an example, right? There's a story about a bunch of starfish that washed up after a storm, and a kid was throwing them up, and someone walked by and said, "You're not going to be able to save all of these. What difference are you making?" He said, "Well, I made a difference to that one, right? Made a difference to that one that I threw back." So that same idea from a helping hand, it might not be helping everybody all at once, but if we can make one difference, one impact, share one story, what we can do, then that's going to help grow, and make an impact from there and make a difference. And that aligns back to the credit union difference, right? Sure. So the whole philosophy of credit unions is people helping people, right? So individuals coming together to support one another, support your neighbors, support your community. It's kind of like the original, crowdsource funding. The original kind of that aspect. That was the original idea.
We are our own GoFundMe.
We're the original GoFundMe in terms of a credit union. So back in the 1800s, early 1900s, when the credit union movement was taking off, that was the idea. People helping people. And so that's what's incorporated in our structure now. That's why we're not for profit. We're member driven, member owned. Everybody has an equal share of membership and ownership in the credit union. Doesn't matter if you have $1 million or $100, you have the same level of ownership in the credit union. And that funnels back to those difference pieces that we have, getting to know our members, help to understand your story, understand our member's story, to say, hey, how can we help you, support you on your financial journey? And that ties back to people helping people. The original GoFundMe.
I love it. Yeah, that's one of the conversations that we had. It was, how's that work? And you're like, literally, people from the steel mill, more or less, each person throws in $20, and now they're a credit union type of a thing. Like, that's the structure. And it's just it's people potting their money together to then help others out. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. You're like, a lot of companies have done that and formed their own, in a sense, credit unions within their company. And I'm like, it doesn't get any simpler than that. It's pretty cool that 10 employees, if it's like you had all your buddies and they're like, all right, we're all going to throw in $1,000 and then if we ever need to loan each other money, we'll have this little pot to loan each other money, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's huge. Like if you go back to the history of credit unions, like around the nation and stuff, more often than not, it started with a cigar box, right? So guys putting in money into a cigar box or the top drawer of a desk drawer, or whatever it might be, and they started it out of their office.
And if
right?
you need to borrow from it, let us know or whatever.
Let us know. We'll do a little ledger here on the side. So
with
it's
interest
pretty,
and
a little bit of interest, but at the time, especially then, there was a lot of concerns in terms of somebody that didn't have credit or the ability to, they couldn't walk up to a bank with tens of thousands of dollars or whatever it might be as their collateral backing it. So they needed a financial institution that was there to help support them and have it to where they weren't worried about loan sharks or the high interest rates. And so that's where kind of that credit union movement and that built from there. From saying, okay, people, my neighbor's not going to charge me, 30% interest or 300% interest on this loan. They're going to keep it fair. They're going to keep it reasonable. And then if I'm putting in some savings, I'm gonna see that dividend return.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's been cool to be a part of that history.
Yeah, that is new. And then the offerings and just how that evolved, right, into what it is now, and it's full on where you guys are competitive within a financial environment to offer things to local companies or businesses or whatever. So the structures. And from a person like building a company, it's like, do you build it that way? Do you go this way? Do you offer this? Do you offer that? Like how the structures and the way that things can kind of build themselves. Once you get the machine running, it kind of can just keep moving along.
That's the hope. That's the goal. Right?
But you still got to have somebody foot on the gas pushing it, right?
That's right.
If you just let it run off.
You got to have your MapQuest going, right? Or you got to ask Siri what direction you're going. Make sure you're not getting lost on the way. So that strategy piece I think is important. Right? You want to have that consistency and that flow, but you need to know what direction you're heading, right? Because if you're heading 5 different directions, you're not going to get anywhere, right? You're going to start going in circles and eventually run out of gas or whatever it might be. So you need to have that direction set.
Get a flat tire and not know how to fix it. That'd be a bad day. So, what else you got? What else is on your mind?
I don't know, all the things. What's the biggest feedback that you've had from your perspective looking at Minicore Works or the craziness that I'm bringing in terms of the credit union? What's the biggest feedback you have for us?
Yeah, no, I like that you're bringing a fresh, younger perspective to it, right? Like I think. With the ever evolving, from me being in social media, and you watch social media, you do that, right? Like that's a thing that you're like kind of watching trends and different things, and your kids watch stuff, right, or whatever. There's a lot derived from that, and I think seeing somebody that like is taking something that has been around forever, but then trying to put like that fresh onto it is really cool. One of the biggest things from a business owner is just seeing your guys' environment. Like the employees are happy. We see a lot of the same employees that go to the events to support what you guys do, whether they're paid or not or whatever it is. Like just from I show up and it's a couple people that we've seen at multiple things. Obviously you'll have more employees that will be at more things than others, like commitments or what they have outside of work. But I think it's really cool to just see, I think, a real well-oiled machine that's seems pretty good overall, type of thing. It's like, how do I start to implement things like that? But while you get it from a brand perspective, you're like, we had a pretty early, like you have stuff on buses around town and you're on social media and you're on banners and you're supporting local businesses. So it's like, how can we be everywhere? And I really like the touch points. And from a marketing thing, I think about that too. I'm like, how do you just be everywhere? How do you build Nike? Not worried about the shoe, right? Like Red Bull doesn't talk about Red Bull drinks all the time. They don't show you the can. They just go do a lot of cool stuff with the logo on it. Yeah. And now everybody knows about, did you see that Red Bull video where they're flying the plane or jumping off the building or swimming or whatever it is, type of thing. It's a very well trusted brand in our ecosystem, and you want to be that in a local ecosystem. And I think from a business perspective, so many people, like I said earlier, are worried about the ROI, but because it's hard. Is how do I do X, Y, and Z with no known if it's going to return me money, although that could be the biggest difference in our business growth in 10 years from now. Right. But that is such a wild thought process for so many people that like they're not worried about 10 years from now and how their business is perceived or what their brand looks like, or, like the business has been around 4 years. Why am I worried about what it looks like in 40 years? Like, I don't like is that even real? Especially when so many businesses don't even live past 5.
Right.
Like, that's pretty wild. So then it's like, holy smoke. So yeah, but from seeing what you guys do, I love the family within what you guys have going on. I think that's been really cool. And I don't know if seems like it's probably been there pretty well, but maybe there's more energy about, I don't know. But I know you've brought on some new people too, and that's been, it's evolving with the same intent, which is cool too. So yeah, I mean,
Appreciate that. Thank
that's why I thought this would be a fun podcast.
Yeah,
It's like talking to
great.
somebody that's like has 50 people that you're responsible for, right? And a long history and brand, which the board's there is like the safety net to make sure you don't go just crazy. But
yeah, go off the rails, right? Yeah.
but still, you're like they've given you a pretty substantial thing to carry on. Like, they pass the torch to you, and it's like it's quite the what I've built here. Like, it's from me to 6 people or whatever it is, what it is. But like the other side of it's like, we've built this for years. Here you go.
Yeah.
Don't mess it up.
Yeah,
Type of a thing.
keep steering the ship.
You got to make it better.
Keep steering the ship, right?
And
Yeah.
only make it better,
That's right.
and they're going to hold you accountable to make it better. And I think that's an interesting mindset thing. Or it's like, if our company ever gets big enough to have a board and a CEO, and and I'm not that person one day, what does it have to look like to maintain whatever that vision is, or the new vision? Because at some point I'll be old, and it's not. I mean, shoot, even the employee, like, some of it I feel old, some of it I feel right there hip. It's good, type of a thing. But it.
Yeah, I predate Google, right?
Yeah, where do we fall in the line of the internet, right, and
That's
all that
right.
stuff? So I don't know, it's cool though. But the business aspect, and you live here, you live there, but then you have your family, and so it's such a balance anymore, especially with phones and the internet and emails, and
Yeah.
you can be anywhere in the world and still be connected by an email, right?
Exactly.
Let me just get a little internet connection, and then everything's
Power of
okay,
technology,
right?
right,
Which
that's
is
right.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing, and it sucks all at the same time, because like you'll forever not be connected. But it's also nice that you're like, oh, something's wrong, I can just take care of it from here, not from there. So yeah, what you're doing is kind of a different beast and an animal. I mean, but that's what's cool. That's why I was like, that's why I want this thing to talk about different levels of running businesses, whether you fully built in own it from an entrepreneurial thing, or like you're given the keys to the castle and now you got to oversee it and make sure everything stays good.
Yeah,
It's
well,
crazy.
yeah, and I think that's one of the neat parts about it too. First and foremost, like it takes a team, right? It's that I often say, one team, one dream. Like, if I didn't have the team behind me and helping to support day in, day out, we wouldn't be going any direction. So that team aspect is huge. But it's kind of neat, in terms of the position there, as CEO, to be able to kind of wear those multiple hats, and pieces of it are that entrepreneur hat. So looking at, okay, well, what are different ideas? How can we look at getting involved in the community? What are things that we can do to help make that impact that are maybe a little bit different, that coincide to our overall strategic goal? And then managing that, day in, day out, in terms of saying, okay, well, how does that strategy kind of unwind and build into that flow that we have each and every day?
Yeah.
And so being able to see that come full circle, with our team, with our interactions, and where we're heading into the future is going to be really exciting.
It's fun and exciting, right? Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, I think if it wasn't growing, if I came to work and just did the same thing every day, that's probably part of the reason why I did what I did, right? And building the business is because you want to push, you want to drive, and when there's energy, it gets crazy, because then you're like, ooh, this is fun, let's do more,
exactly.
right, type of a thing. And I think that's what's kind of cool with what, like, you do get to steer that, you get to bring your ideas, and I'm sure that not all your ideas have been you have to push, right? Like, you'd be like, I really think we should. I don't know if we should. I think we should. And then, but then when you get to show what it does, and you're like, yes, it worked.
Yeah,
Like, right?
correct.
Like, I made a good call. It worked. The energy's good. What's next? And then you constantly have to be looking at what's next and forward. At the same time, if you got to switch your hat and deal with something that you don't want to, you do. So, overall, so like, single business owner, well, maybe one with one employee to somebody with 50, like, it's a lot of the same things, right? Just at different scale.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned that just a moment ago. You talked about a lot of businesses that fail within 5 years and the struggles that happen there. And one of the biggest things that I would say incorporating similarly in terms of the credit union, the management, the structure, whether you're an organization that's been around for 90 years or it's your first year, I think focusing in on that strategic planning is important. So what will it look like in 5 years and 10 years? And what's that most important goal that you need to focus in on and key in on those behaviors and those measurements that you can do now to help get you there, right? So am I on track? Can I change a behavior? Can I do something different with my team or in the community, whatever it might be? What's going to be that activity that you need to do that's going to help get those results that are along that, basically like that roadmap, right? Because unfortunately, I think if someone is not taking into account that strategic plan or saying, well, what is it going to look like in 5 to 10 years? You don't really have like that strategic filter, right?
Yeah.
And what I've found is sometimes the hardest thing to do is say no, right? Because you're always going to have more good ideas than it's going to be the ability to execute on them. So then at the end of the day, what time do you have? What energy do you have? What resources do you have to say yes to the most important things? And if you have kind of like that filter or that roadmap that can help guide you there, saying, hey, this is where I want to be in 5 years. Am I making each of the decisions that I need to do now to help get me there? And it kind of gives you that ability to say, okay, well, am I doing the right things? Am I on track? Am I not on track?
Yeah.
What do I need to change? So if there were things that I would correlate, again, from an organization that's 90 years to 1 year, having that plan in place, it's going to look different, I'm sure. But what does that plan look like? What is that plan to get to that 5-year goal, that 10-year goal, the 30-year goal, and then saying, okay, well, what do I need to do now to get there?
What do you guys have goals set for? Like, how far out are your goals set?
Yeah, so right now, like our initial strategic plan that we had went out through, I think it was like a 3 or 4 year strategic plan. We have broader level, kind of like 10-year stretch goal type things in terms of saying, okay, what the ideals have
What's
there.
possible if everything goes right?
Correct.
And then
Yeah, but then that correlates back to that weekly. We do a weekly dashboard in terms of like to where the team sees, what are we doing now? What are we focusing in on now from our member experience, from our growth aspect, from our controls aspect. So that way they can kind of see it. They can see what a part of that puzzle looks like.
Is that like a more or less like a graph that says like percentage of like we're hitting at 80% or 90% or what's that?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So just kind of that dashboard there, and then that gets reported similarly with our board of directors, to where they get to see similar dashboard each month when they're doing their board meetings, and what are the things that we're focusing in on? Are we trending in the right directions? So that way, again, if we know that we're not on track, then we can make a correction. We can coach to those behaviors, or we can say, hey, this probably wasn't a really good idea. We need to shift and we need to make a change now, rather than waiting, a year or two down the lines and then realizing, oh, wow, this wasn't working. You want to find out sooner. Are you on track or you're not on track? And then that also gives you the ability to share in success, right? To be able to see, with your team, what's the incredible work that you're doing and help to, succeed on that, right? So, are you a baseball fan, basketball fan? What's your favorite? What's your favorite
I don't know.
sport?
I've played them all, I guess.
Played them all?
Yeah. I don't follow anything super close anymore.
All right. So
I'm in the game of business right now.
In the game of business. Okay.
But yeah, no,
but you're high speed though, so you like racing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if everybody was racing and there wasn't a clock to track it by, right? If you just went out there and you did a lap or something.
First to the finish line.
And let's say you were doing a time trial. Let's say you're doing a time trial. Okay.
Got it.
But if there wasn't a time clock, if there wasn't something to measure how fast a car was going, do you think it'd be really exciting?
That'd be pretty hard to. You wouldn't have the levels to win, right? Like you'd just be like, I think it went faster, right?
Yeah.
Like, it felt good.
Felt good, right?
But yeah.
We didn't have a measure to say, did
exactly.
I get better, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Did I perform better, whatever it might be. Same thing happens with a strategic plan or bringing that down to a dashboard, saying, hey, are we winning or losing? What's the scorecard say? What does the time trial say? Am I getting better on my times? Am I getting not as good on my times? Right? What do I need to continue to get better at? That same thing aligns to business and organizations to be able to say, hey, am I on track? what am I going to do to help continue to either achieve those goals, right? Am I winning each day? Am I losing? How many more times am I losing? Am I winning? So using that data to then support decisions
Sure.
when it comes to coaching, development, focusing in on objectives with the community, with organizations, whatever it might be. If you're not on the path that you want to be, then you want to make a change, right?
Yep.
And so either continue to do what you like to get those results that you have, or change it up to get new results. And that kind of all comes back together in terms of things that we incorporate with the credit union, things I think other business owners can apply pretty easily. Just a matter of taking that dedicated time to focus in on it and say, okay, well, what does that next 5-year, 10-year goal look like, and then bringing that back down to today.
I love working stuff backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to like marketing, right? And I have conversations with people, and I'm like, so you want to do how many more sales?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how much can we spend to get that sale?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are you willing to spend X dollars to get those sales? And like some people are like, most are no, like because it's crazy at the level like they don't even know the math to like get there, right? Like you want to grow sales by 30%, like. If you're trying to put the math behind it, you got to like to guarantee, or like let's be realistic with what it costs to get there, and then let's multiply it. And is that what the budget looks like to get there? And if the answer is no, then maybe we need to be more realistic on our goals, or we got to figure out how to get the math to work, right? And pour it to it. So I love that side of it. I love going to the end and then working it backwards, because then it's actual math, right?
Yeah.
It's real. Like it's also an audit. You might not like the,
Correct.
oh, if I want that to happen in
Yeah.
5 years, then I got to do all this stuff to really get there. Is that, and then there's probably so many variables you don't know of, but you have at least an idea.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's great. And I think that's something we could probably implement better here. But then like you got to be at a certain size before you're like, yeah, let's figure out and get that software that translates the data that then gives everybody a dashboard. And then you got to have employees that want to look at the dashboard, or you got to hold them accountable to like how do we do? Are we good? Or your team that like you say, hey, how'd your team do on your KPIs or whatever it is, your deliverables, and are we crushing it, or are we sucking? And you don't want to suck, right?
That's right. You don't want to suck. Don't want to suck.
So like, how do you know if you're sucking if you don't have the data to prove black and white whether you do or don't? And I think that's probably a big thing for a lot of businesses, but it's hard to justify or implement it if it's just you or one or two people. But I mean, it could be probably as simple as like a whiteboard that says like, how many wins do we get this week?
Right.
4. How many losses we get? 1. So we're up 3-1, or 3 wins. So net 3, good. And then obviously it probably gets a lot crazier in the data, or as things you look at that 10-year thing. Okay, for us to do this, and this in that amount of time, all these things have to happen.
Correct.
So you're building like this really crazy roadmap and then does that get audited quarterly, yearly, monthly, depending on the thing, probably, right? Like,
So the you want to consistently look at it, right? So you don't want to just like write up a strategic plan or something like that. Oh yeah, I'll think about it next year, or things like that. So the dashboard that we look at is weekly. But then I do kind of like a monthly update based off of our strategic plan. Are we on track? Are we not on track? And then if there was a significant variance, like if we were way off on one mark, or if there's something new that came up that we didn't anticipate, then it'd be important to bring that up then and there. So I'd say you'd at least want to look at your plan monthly to make sure that you're still on track and kind of go from there. But also buy into it. Make sure that you're trusting the process. Because a lot of times you're not going to see a result right away. We were talking about like the marketing components or the ROI. Some things are really hard to measure, right? So doing community events or even social media, you can track a lot on social media, right? How many likes did I get? How many views did I get? Which is a pretty cool measure. But then it's also hard to sometimes track and say, okay, well, how many truly new members did I get from this? And there are some components to do, but give it time, right? Trust that process. Don't back out on something right away just because you think it might be broken after a week. Try and build that as a habit, right? And say, okay, well, how does this look then after 30 days? Where are we trending? Is there one piece that's getting maybe just a little bit better than it was? Like I said, the first strategic planning session I came into with this credit union was in October of 2022. November 2022. And so we didn't really kind of see the full scale results and that momentum building until just this last year in terms of kind of starting to see, okay, well, what does that look like for member growth? What does that look like for member retention? What does that look like for member service, for loan growth? Those types of consistencies, it takes a while for that to kind of start to build up.
It's kind of the bigger
So
the
kind
ship,
of,
the longer it takes to
pretty
change,
much,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got to trust the process,
You
right?
go turn around a bicycle, that's fine. Turn around a ship, it takes a little bit longer, a little more effort.
Yep. Yeah, get out and start kicking. Start helping it, help start steering that thing. So no, take it one day at a time, but trust the process.
Love it. Yeah, I think that's key. But you have to be bought in. You have to be pretty passionate about the decision to then hold on for 3 years and say, it'll get better.
Yeah, that's right.
I promise. Like, this is the way to go. Like, you have to have that vision and that belief that it's going to play out. And
Yeah.
at least you hope.
No, that's right. You hope. Yeah, it takes patience, which is hard for somebody that doesn't have any patience. Like I have
Yeah, if I
very
could buy some,
little
I'd be
patience.
broke.
Yeah,
for sure.
that'd be perfect. Let's bottle that up. Yeah, patience is good, but it does take that sometimes, right? So
Yeah.
they'll kind of help build that up and kind of see where it continues.
Like for you guys, and I thought about it, but not really. Like social media is relatively new with a company that is as old as Miniqua Works is. It's like, but if you can build a really good following and all the platforms stay around for long enough, what's the value within that if in 20 years that you hand off this like following or this awareness, right? Which you guys are local, but is it always local? Could it expand a little further? What do those ever play out to be, depending on the company and the ecosystem? So it's pretty crazy that you're also making decisions for such a future.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And we do okay. We'll do like our yearly planning and like kind of project our plans, and then I'll build budgets based on that. And like, but then I know last year I did it all, and then I fell short on literally spending the money to market ourselves. Imagine that. It didn't, the math didn't math, right? I'm like, why didn't we? And then I like audited. I'm like, oh, I thought what we were going to spend in like the whole, like in a couple months we spent over the whole year. And I'm like, well, I was way off on my marker of holding myself accountable to say like, but then you also got to be like, we're going to commit to spending this money because we believe it's going to work, but not guaranteed to work. But it's weird. So yeah, I'm sure for you guys, it's just that at scale, and you just have to have even more faith or more direction to. You guys have a lot of data. It's worked for you in the past, or what. Let's do 80% what we know works, and let's do 20% new stuff to see if it correlates better. Or when you come in, maybe 30 or 40% different things to try to shake it up a little extra, right? Yeah. So super cool.
Yeah, that's right. No, and it's been neat to see, and great partners to be able to work with in the community that help push the envelope and say, hey, these are things that you can do. This is kind of like that peer competition, right? Say, hey, they're doing some pretty cool stuff. How can I do that? Like, how can I get that cool at doing these things? So I appreciate the support and the momentum that you've helped us and others in the community build. So
yeah, it's fun, and that's what's fun is when we get our best clients are ones that just want to go do it with us, right? And want to deep dive in there. Like we just had a conversation. Well, we took a little sip break on some water. You already have an idea. You're like, oh, have you seen this song? And we need to do something with this and yada yada yada. And it's if we only drove it from our side of it, we can help there, but we need buy-in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we are building a partnership and we work together. If you want a really good social media or you want to do great at marketing, you got to be bought in too. It's not just like, yep, and I don't want to be in it. I don't want to be a part of it. Like, it's okay, and that can be done, but it far exceeds when you're willing to jump in and learn together and get better together. Sure. Even some of the content stuff we've done together, like now it's getting oiled better. Like we kind of better planned and things flow better. The employees know. How to jump in.
They know what to expect, or they know to steer clear. Like, oh, they're coming in again. I don't want to be here today. No. So that's been fun. It's been fun. Thank you.
Well, one of the last questions I asked is in business and or life, what does it mean to not suck to you?
What does it mean to not suck?
Not suck. Like, what do you kind of live by to be better every day or if you're giving advice to somebody that's like, man, it's just not working for me. Like to not suck, to be happy in life, to do the things you want to do. What's that mean?
The thing that I asked my kids when we're trying to do like a fun event or a fun day, whatever it might be, like we're going to the pool or we did our staycation up the mountains, whatever it might be. The question that we've started asking them was it the best day ever? and like
Right.
just kind of build excitement around it. And I get excited about the times when they say, "Yeah, that was the best day ever," and it could have been just going to get ice cream in the afternoon after after a day at the pool, whatever it might be. But that as a measure of success, or saying, "Hey, I'm not sucking," right?
Yeah.
Is to hear my kids say that was the best day ever. And then to be able to see our team excited, motivated about being able to be involved in activities, having a best friend at work, whatever it might be. Those are things that kind of come together. And I think the same thing with my kids, right? So in terms of like, was this the best day ever?
Yeah.
And so thinking, okay, well, was this the best event ever? Was this the best time ever? And no, it's not. Like, we're coming in, we're doing work, we're doing all those things. And I
You
get
can't
that.
always
But
top
that
it, right?
stretch goal there, and I think we're making some of the right decisions. We're getting the right way there to say, hey, this is the best day ever. This is pretty cool for being a part of these things that we're doing as a business, as an organization, and then that feeds into being able to do it for my family, right? To be able to help, happy spouse, happy house, right? Help ensure that the wife and kids are happy, but trying to make it the best day ever.
That's just kind of living by that, huh?
Yeah.
What can I do today to make it the best day ever?
That's it.
Love it.
One
man.
day at a time.
One day at a time, and that's all that matters, right? Today is what really matters.
That's right.
'Cause you never know. Yesterday's done, and tomorrow you never know.
That's
so.
right. Yeah.
Love it, man. Well, thanks for
That's it.
joining me.
Thank you,
It's been
sir.
good talking.
Appreciate
and
it. Awesome.
Thank you.